Vietnamese have come in huge numbers of recent time, and a lot of those people were refugees, and a lot of those people were Catholic, and they've made a huge difference to the church in Australia. And you'll find Vietnamese priests all over the place, and you'll find that, like for example, we've got the Bishop of Parramatta is a Vietnamese, the new Jesuit provincials are Vietnamese, many parishes in Sydney and around the country have got Vietnamese priests in them. And that's a reasonably new phenomenon, and it's come since perhaps the end of what they call the American War, or what we might call the Vietnamese War. Okay, now amongst many of those people who were refugees, some found themselves ending up in seminaries here in Australia, and two of those became MSc priests who then went back to Vietnam. But I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. There are many other MSc priests here in Australia, some of whom were also refugees from Vietnam. So Australia and the Vietnamese Catholic community is very united at this stage. You might know that Vietnam, and many of you perhaps have been there as visitors or just for holiday. We can't get there at the minute, that's the trouble. But it's a country of about 95 million people. They're doing very well with the COVID. They're coping with that extraordinarily well. But of the 95 million people, about 7, 8, 9%, I'm not too sure how many, are Catholic. And they're practicing Catholic. The churches are packed. There are no Catholic schools, there are no Catholic hospitals anymore. The government has taken all those. But the Catholic parishes are allowed to flourish. It's not the same as China, but the Vietnamese Catholics are a very, very strong and influential group. And if you think about 8 or 9% of 95 million, that's a lot of Catholics. And they've been Catholics since about the early 1600s. So they're a lot older church than we are in Australia. Anyway, the missionaries of the Sacred Heart, of course, were very interested in going to Vietnam because we had a number of the men who were here who had been refugees and became MSCs when they got here. Two of them in particular kept umming and ahhing about whether they should return to Vietnam. And we received the invitation and we decided that we would go back to Vietnam because the Vietnamese church, according to the Vicar for Religious, said that they needed something of our spirit in the Vietnamese church. They needed something of the spirit of the MSC, the spirituality of the heart, to soften the religious dimension a little and to remind people that it's a religion of love. So we've got a message to give. And we went there then in 2003. Okay, so now we've been there for 17 years. And bit by bit we're growing. We're about 7 or 8 priests already. There would be 7 or 8 novices. There's 3 deacons. There's about 20 students in the seminary. And there are innumerable numbers of pre-postulates around the countryside. The mission office here in Sydney has been involved with it since the very beginning, which is really wonderful. Financially, for the training of students, but also particularly for clean water projects in Vietnam. And there is a mission office, a Vietnamese mission office in Saigon, run by Brother Hung, MSc. So the relationship between Australia MSc and Vietnamese MSc is very close. A number of the young priests have been coming to Australia to learn to live with we oldies and to get a few techniques about ministry, and then they go back to their own country to work there. They have a lovely quirky sense of humour. We get on really well together. When I first went there, we received the first few students, and I said to them, "You're probably Dep Chai." Dep Chai meaning young and handsome. And how do you know that? Because that's what your mothers have told you. And they agreed with that. But then they decided they'd get me back, and they said to me, "Well, Uncle Bob, you'd be kind of Dep Lao." Dep Lao? I said. What's Dep Lao mean? Dep Lao means, not bad for an old man. So we have lots of fun together. They are enthusiastic students, and they're becoming extraordinary carriers of the spirituality of the heart. So hopefully, if Roger lets me, I'll come back and give you some more information about Vietnam and other places. But in the meantime, say a prayer for them. Thanks for supporting them. Take care, go gently, God bless.